So in this video, I'm going to go over adding floors to an existing elevator system. So if you open up the scene demo, you'll see that there's 3 elevator systems here. So each of them come in various sizes. So let's take this elevator system with 10 floors and let's add a new floor. So the first thing you need to do to add a new floor is you need to duplicate one of the mid-section prefabs. So you'll notice that each elevator system actually consists of a set of prefabs for each floor. So they're called, I call them mid sections, right? So to add a new floor, all you need to do is just copy and paste the most recent mid section here. So just press Control D and you'll create a new one, and then you want to position it higher. So in this particular elevator system, my floors are spaced about 5 meters apart. So you'll notice that each of the elevator, each of the midsection prefabs are spaced exactly 5 meters apart. So this just makes it easier for me to offset the prefabs when I add a new floor. So when you create your own elevator system, you can actually change the height of each floor. It just requires a bit of modifications to some of the prefabs. For example, the elevator box prefab, you'll need to change the height here. See, currently these numbers here represent the heights for this 10 floor system, and if you look at the numbers, they are actually, each of them are offset by 5 meters. But I'll go into these numbers later. So getting back into the midsection, so once I duplicated the midsection and I offset it by however high I wanted to, I need to then reposition the top section. So you'll notice there's a top frame here. Basically, the top frame contains the motor pulley that pulls the chains up, and basically it just contains the cap for the roof of the elevator system. So just position that so it just sits right above the new floor that you created. Another thing you'll need to position is, if you go into the elevator box prefab, I'm just going to delete these for now because they're just kind of in my way and we don't need them for this particular tutorial. So if you go into the elevator box prefab, you'll look for a bone called cable. Oh, sorry, here it is. It's called cable end top. So basically, these are just the tops of the cables, and you want to just reposition them so that they go inside of the machine pulley over there. So if you notice, sometimes there's a little bit of, it disappears. That has to do with the clipping. I think to address that, you can just go into cable wires and then update when off screen, and that should fix the clipping. Yeah, right. So yeah, if you notice sometimes that the cables disappear or certain things disappear, you'll want to click on the mesh. So in this case, it was the cable wires, and you want to check mark update when off screen. So yeah, the reason that's the case is because this particular model is actually quite large, and it just takes up a lot of space, and sometimes the entire model won't be in the screen space, and it'll just clip it. So so yeah, make sure you just check that mark off. Anyways, getting back to the elevator systems, the next step you'll need to do is you need to reposition the, oh no, actually no, you need to go inside of the new midsection that you created, and you want to look for a couple of game objects called call elevator button up and down. So these 2 game objects basically refer to the triggers that the player will press when he calls the elevator. So each of these triggers are assigned a particular floor. So for this new floor, since it's the 11th floor we just added here, we'll need to change the floor number to 11. And then, so another thing we'll need to do is each of the floors, they have a mesh here. This is just a static mesh that we'll need to add. So currently, we only have 10 of these floor signs. To add a new one, what we do is we just go to the prefabs here. I actually have a prefab that contains all of the like the floor signs all up to number 64. So to add a new one to this particular elevator system, just drag it in here, drop it under there, and then you want to grab the floor sign 11. So just drag that out and drop it under our existing floor sign parent. So now you have two of them, and you only really need the one with 11 floors. So you go ahead and delete that prefab. And now you want to position this one. So so taking a look at the the previous floor signs, you'll notice that they are also offset by 5. And so for the new one, for the 11th floor, instead of 45, we'll want to just set it to 50. Yeah, there we go. And then there we go. Oh, also, this one's a bit off, so you want to copy and paste that Z value as well. So, so the Z value just kind of refers to how in and out it was. And yeah, you want to make sure that all of the Z values are the same here, so it's uniform. Okay, so that's done. Next thing you want to do is you want to go inside of the elevator box prefab here. Go inside here, and then go inside the elevator bone, and then go inside the elevator car root. Now you want to look for a game object called floor buttons. Now floor buttons basically contains the buttons that the player will press inside of the boxcar. Now currently, since we only had 10 buttons, we'll need to add an 11th one. So the easiest way to do that is just to drag a prefab that I created that contains a bunch of buttons up to 45, and just drop that underneath elevator car root. And then just go ahead and drag out the 11th button and drop it under there. Yeah, go ahead. And then delete the prefab that we don't need anymore. So now we've got 11 buttons, and they're positioned where we should have them. And then next thing you need to do is you need to go back into the elevator car prefabs, and you'll see that you'll notice that there's a bunch of settings that need to be correctly set. So the elevator control basically controls how the elevator moves up and down and all that, and how many floors there are. So you need to fill out the floors once you added a new one. So go under floor heights, and then you'll need to add an 11th floor. And since they're offset by 5 meters, you can just go ahead and add 5 to the previous number. So the element 9 refers to the 10th floor, 28.95, and then this element 10 refers to the 11th floor. So this value here, if you're wondering what it actually represents, this value represents the Y value that the elevator boxcar will be in when it moves to the 10th floor or to the 11th floor. So for example, so to illustrate this, we'll just copy and paste this value here, and then we'll go inside here and we'll look for a bone called the elevator bone. Now this is the bone that actually moves the elevator up and down. See, this elevator bone moves it up and down. Now once you paste in the Y value for the 11th floor, oh sorry, I didn't copy it properly. Control C that, and then Control V that into the Y value. Now once you paste it into the Y value there, you'll notice that the elevator boxcar is sitting at the height of the 11th floor. So basically, those values here represent the height that you want the elevator bone to be in for that particular floor. So for example, the first one here represents the first floor. So if you copy and paste that into elevator bone, boom, the elevator will be at the first floor. So basically, when you play this level, the code will actually use these values to determine where the elevator boxcar will move when you call it. So it'll move between these values there. So okay, so that's the floor heights, and then we'll need to add more links to the new call buttons that we added. So currently we have 10 call buttons representing for the 10 floors that we already had before. Now, when we added a new pre-section here, a new prefab here, it has another 2 call buttons. So we'll just add another element. So size 11, and then go all the way down to the last two here. Now, originally they're pointing to the call buttons for floor 10, but we want them to point to the call buttons for floor 11 right here. So we just go there again. Sorry, collapse that. And then just drag in the call buttons for floor 11 into there. All right, there we go. So now when we click, yeah, so now it's properly referencing these two buttons here. All right. Okay, so that's the call buttons. Close that. And now the floor buttons, going back into these again. Now these are basically the buttons inside of the boxcar. So we'll need to add another floor button here. And now you need to drag in the floor button trigger for representing the 11th floor. And okay, that's set up. And now you can close that. Okay. Yeah. After that, the next thing you need to change. See, these things you don't have to touch them. Don't worry about them. These basically represent the position of the door when they're open and close. And yeah, you won't have to touch any of that. And ceiling tiles is basically the ceiling tile here is basically represents these tiles up at the top. Like you can actually make it so the hatch. See, there's an escape hatch at the top of the elevator, and when you press play, and if you click on open hatch, the escape hatch will actually open, and the ceiling tiles will disappear. So, yeah, so that's just something you can play around with if you want to make a level where the player can actually go through the escape hatch. But yeah, you won't need to touch any of these. These are already set up for you. The wait time at the floor, that basically just represents how long the elevator will stay at a particular floor when you call it. So you can change that to like 5 seconds or whatnot. And elevator pulleys, don't need to touch that. Wait wheel. Okay, so one more thing we need to change is basically the counterweights. So basically, as the elevator moves up and down in a real in a real elevator, this thing called the counterweight, it moves in the opposite direction of the elevator. So it kind of moves up and down based on how high the elevator boxcar is. So we'll need to specify the max height of it as it reaches whenever the boxcar goes to the very base floor. So when we added a new floor, the max height of our elevator system changes. So basically, to find the max height of the weights, you can just position that the counterweights to a spot where you feel like, okay, that looks about where the counterweights will be whenever the boxcar is at the first floor. And you just copy and paste this Y value for the weights. Oh, sorry. So the game object is called weights, and it's just right under cable root. It's right here. And then you want to copy and paste that Y value, and then go back into weight max height and just paste it in there. Yeah. So as the elevator, when you play the game, as the elevator moves, as the boxcar moves up and down, the counterweights will move up and down in the opposite direction of the boxcar. So, okay, so after that is pretty much all we need to set up in order for this to work. And then now we can just go up and press play. Now, before we press play, I just want to make sure that my player, the player, is actually positioned on the floor here. So we go ahead and position that. Now let's just test it out. Press play. Drag that out. Now you want to put the red button on the button. The red dot on the button, and then press your left mouse button. And then you can go inside and now call number 11. Yeah, there we go. We're on the 11th floor. Call button works. Yeah, there we go. So, yeah. So earlier I was talking about the escape hatch. If you click on elevator, if you click on the elevator box prefab, and you click on open hatch, you'll see that the hatch is you can open and close it. Yeah. So if you want to make your game so player can actually get out of that, you can actually make them climb out or whatnot. But yeah, see, the option is there for you to do such a thing. But yeah, anyways, so that's pretty much how you add a floor. If you want to remove a floor, pretty much just do the exact opposite of what I just showed you. All right, good luck.